Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Genshin Impact. My name is Azwark, and today our focus is on the story, the world building, and the general exploration is compelling enough to entice you to play Genshin Impact. Let's start with the easy one. The world building of this game is deep, like really deep. If you want a rich backstory with tons of lore and backdrop for those who go looking for it, Genshin's got it. The world of Teyvat has reams of history, legends, and cosmology, to the extent that there are dozens of good-sized channels on YouTube dedicated purely to dissecting and analyzing the lore, all in service of trying to determine where the story's going. Most of that world building is not in your face at all. You can avoid it if you choose to. It's tucked away in readable books, in item descriptions, or in character backstories until it's needed for the main quest. Not to mention the art and architecture of each nation. Teyvat is broken into 7 nations, each of which draws inspiration from a real-world counterpart on Earth. Liyue is China, Sumeru is India and Arabia, and Fontaine is Western Europe, to name a few. Those 7 nations also correspond with the 7 elements of the game, which form the backbone of the gameplay elements we'll discuss tomorrow. Questing in the game is frequently told through cutscenes. Lots of cutscenes. At this point, I've probably spent 2 full days of my life watching Genshin cutscenes. They are unskippable, and the game isn't even very good about letting you mash the button to skip all the dialogue. A common complaint about the game is that there's a pretty decent chunk of the audience who genuinely does not care about the story and would rather just make those cutscenes go away. Which is a shame, because the main story is pretty good, eventually. The primary quest line, known as the Archon quest, is not super compelling at first, and if there's one aspect of the game where I feel obligated to be like that friend who says, oh no, you have to keep reading a book series past the first several novels, or watching a show past the first 3 seasons, until it gets good, it's the Archon quest. Besides that, there are quests that focus on the playable characters, and smaller side quests. That last category isn't voiced, and don't expect this to be like grabbing 15 quests from a hub in World of Warcraft and completing 1 or more in each little tiny chunk of the world. Genshin Impact is not an MMO, arguably feeling more like a Bethesda or Ubisoft-style open-world game, without, being by Ubisoft. Still, in my experience, there are more quests available than the average player will feel compelled to complete, not because they're bad, but mostly because they aren't the focal point of the game. What really sets Genshin apart from other mobile and gacha titles is the very obvious Breath of the Wild inspiration. There is an absolutely massive overworld to explore, and it just keeps getting larger. It's certainly bigger than a game like Skyrim or Fallout 4, albeit without all the side dungeons. Or at least it feels bigger because there's no empty space. One thing that sets Genshin apart is the omnipresence of objectives and lootables. There are treasure chests, collectibles, secrets, and very obviously gamified puzzles occupying every nook and cranny of the world. It's very hard to go any distance at all without stumbling into something, and clearing the overworld is an activity that will keep avid explorers preoccupied for dozens of hours. With a stamina system, climbing mechanics, and a wind glider cribbed straight from Breath of the Wild, the mechanics of moving around the world generally feel pretty good, aside from maybe wishing you could run a little faster. Not that it's slow, just there's a lot of ground to cross. And although you have to unlock them by reaching a certain point in the game, there's a number of other play modes to experience too. There's fishing. There's a housing feature where you create furniture inside a giant teapot. There's a Magic the Gathering clone. There's a variety of minigames, many of them added as limited time events to spice things up for special rewards. Or, perhaps most notably, there's the option to have players join your game world and run around with you. This isn't true co-op, but you can fight most bosses this way or simply have players help scout the wilderness for your treasure quests. Don't worry, they can't loot them for you. One last thing I want to note about experiences, there are a lot of different things to level up in this game. Your accounts levels up, the characters level up, the weapons level up, the artifacts, which are the other equipment slots you have, level up, talents, which is the game's way of saying your character's skills, level up, your reputation with each nation levels up, your progression in the housing system or with the card game levels up, lots and lots of levels. It's a dream for people who love to see numbers go up, and maybe a bit less enjoyable for someone who just wants to see the story. But even if that's not your thing, it can still be managed. Genshin caters to a lot of different crowds. If none of that scares you off, I'm going to talk about combat tomorrow and also more on leveling. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.